women represent what, 51% of the Canadian population. However, if you look at the statistics, only about 20% entrepreneurs are led by a woman. Historically, underwriting models was using historical data to underwrite a loan. But historical data is filled with biases because historically, who was getting a loan?
In 2026, we know that talent and drive are evenly distributed across our country, but access to capital and opportunity often remains concentrated.
Honestly, we need more women entrepreneurs for Canada's success, for community success, and don't be afraid in going and launching a business in those new topics, defense, AI.
Hello everyone, this is Kripa Anand and welcome to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine, a platform dedicated to spotlighting the voices, strategies and journeys of women leaders and entrepreneurs who are shaping Canada's business and policy landscape. Today we are exploring a fundamental shift in how we fund the future of Canadian entrepreneurship. In 2026, we know that talent and drive are evenly distributed across our country, but access to capital and opportunity often remains concentrated. So for today's special He for She segment, joining us is Adil Hassam, Vice President and Head of Community Banking at BDC. With over 20 years of expertise in banking and innovation, Adil is currently leading BDC's mission to support undeserved entrepreneurs, specifically those facing systemic barriers. Through a partner-led, community-driven model, Adil is redefining how Canada's development bank reaches the entrepreneurs who traditional models often leave behind. So, before further ado, let's welcome this very special guest. Adil, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Now, Adil, despite the massive growth in women-led businesses, access to traditional financing remains one of the most significant hurdles for all the founders. Let's start the conversation by understanding why is supporting women entrepreneurs a specific priority for BDC right now, and how does community banking helps those who, face the non-conventional barriers in a way? Go ahead.
So, very good question. So, I think that first answer to that is, well, there's no reason why a specific group of entrepreneurs should face additional barriers. It should be a meritocratic way of assessing someone to access capital. And so, women represent what, 51% of the Canadian population. However, if you look at the statistics, only about 20% entrepreneurs are led by a woman. So, you have a problem right there. It should be representative of the population. B, if you look at how much money Canada is leaving on the table for that 30% gap of not having women entrepreneurs as part as the demographic of the population, Canada is losing altogether. So why is it important for BDC? Is BDC's mission as a crown corporation is to provide equitable access to financing to any deserving entrepreneur who wants access to capital. And finally, I would say to that question is, right now, if you look at Canada, we're looking at a sovereign Canada, a resilient Canada, and empowering women to launch their business or be successful in their business through capital or support is very fundamental.
Wow. I think moving from rigid underwriting to a model that understands unique business realities is how we ensure that great ideas aren't lost to a lack of early capital. That's amazing. Now, Adil, let's explore how relationship-driven banking supports local growth. So why is a partner-led, community-based approach more effective for supporting women-led businesses than, say, a traditional centralized banking model?
So I would have to say it's not more effective per se. I think that you need both. So the whole nature of community banking is realizing that BDC or the banking system or community-based organization cannot do it alone. So the model of community banking is to say, let's look at the different partners in the ecosystem, who is financing underserved group such as women, and let have BDC empower those organizations to have more capital and resources to serve those entrepreneurs that BDC might not have access to because they're either remote or they're part of a community that is not, let's say, willing to go to the financial system or BDC directly. And so we want to work with partners that are in communities that understand the reality of those women entrepreneurs, for example, and provide them the wraparound service and relationship-based and in-community-based financing that they would not have access otherwise. Perhaps the last thing I would say is by doing so, what we realize is the loss rates, when you provide not only the loan, but with the mentorship around it, the success is multifold. So that's why we launched community banking to do this kind of model. Another thing maybe I'll say is we shouldn't look women entrepreneurs as a monolithic group. Some women have different realities and have different needs. If you look at African Canadian woman who is immigrating from Africa, will have a different reality than perhaps a native woman Canadian and things like that. So working with those groups, you can tailor to the audience the needs.
Wow, very well articulated. And I think what you said at the last, it's the difference between being equal and being equitable, right?
Correct.
That's amazing. I think leveraging the deep local knowledge of partners, it ensures that capital flows into the hands of entrepreneurs who have the vision but lack the traditional network. That's amazing. Now, Adil, let's look at going beyond capital with holistic founder support. So, what kind of non financial wraparound support does community banking provide to help women entrepreneurs to move from, a startup phase to a sustainable scale? Because that's a very tough journey to, go through. And when you have a trusted partner with you in that journey, it just makes everything a lot easier. So,
Totally. So again, I think the wraparound support, the holistic support we provide entrepreneur through partners varies. So right now, if we look at the current teams in the market, you have some of those early founders or early, let's say, entrepreneurs who will need some financial literacy, that will need, how to make a business plan templates and things like that to be able to apply for financing. So you have pre-loan, loan, post-loans. And even if you have pre-loan, loan, post-loans, it depends on the nature of that entrepreneurship. The other thing we are helping our partners with, so we have material for them, e-learning modules, financial literacy and whatnot, but we're trying to tailor it to the reality of the market. I'll give you a few examples. Right now, there's a wave of business transition. So selling a business, you also need wraparound. So if you're a woman, you own your business and you want to sell it, you're going to have specific wraparound for that. You have defense right now. It's booming. There's hundreds of billions of dollars funneled or about to be funneled in the defense industry. You have a few women that group together and launch an organization called Women in Defense. Well, maybe we can help them with some very specific material to how do I think about defense as a woman or for my company. And the other one is AI and things like that. So we're looking at the teams that are most relevant today in Canada, and we're building those wraparound for those entrepreneurs. Final thing is, because we're partnering with partners, they also have needs. So for example, if you're like a small lender for a community and you do $1-2 million, you might not have the full wherewithal of how to do loans. So in a specific industry, because you touch those loans once in a while. So we're going to help our partner with lending experience or lending knowledge as well. So two types, for the partner and for the entrepreneur.
I think that was very educational in nature as well, because what you were saying, I think more and more people need to be aware that, these opportunities exist, and that too in such a kind of way. That's amazing. Providing resources like capacity building and advisory services alongside a loan is what transforms a business owner into a market leader. So thank you so much for that. To all the founders watching, in 2026, you shouldn't have to give up 60% of your business just to get the capital you need to grow. Adil's commitment to community banking at BDC is personal. It's built on the lessons of his own family's journey. The door is opening for more inclusive financing that values your vision as much as your track record. If you felt invisible to traditional banks, it's time to seek out the community partners that BDC is empowering. Visit bdc.ca to learn more about how their micro lending partnerships and loan guarantees are designed for entrepreneurs exactly like you. Don't wait for a seat at the table. Build your own with a partner that believes in your potential. Now we'll take a quick break right here, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll dive into how allyship and partnerships are shaping a truly inclusive ecosystem for women entrepreneurs. Stay tuned.
At Purolator, we understand the importance of every delivery, whether it's a document, a special gift, a critical healthcare shipment, or an entire warehouse worth of inventory. Throughout our more than 60-year history, we've honed our expertise to build out a powerful portfolio of logistics services that enable us to deliver on every promise. Whether shipping across town or around the globe, from small and medium-sized businesses to industrial, technology, retail, and healthcare sectors, Purolator serves a diverse array of customers. So no matter what, where, or when you're shipping, Purolator's expertise, experience, and innovative solutions enable us to deliver on your promises.
Welcome back to the She and Success podcast. Let's continue with Adil as he shares how institutional allies can help dismantle barriers and support women-led businesses' growth. Let's explore building a ecosystem through, allyship and partnerships, as you mentioned. So how exactly do you see the role of institutional allies in creating a truly inclusive ecosystem where bias no longer dictates who gets to grow?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. There's multiple things to say here. So with the advances of AI, if you just use, for example, historically, underwriting models was using historical data to underwrite a loan. But historical data is filled with biases because historically, who was getting a loan? White male Canadians, for example. So you have to debias the data to make it more equitable in your underwriting model. So that's one thing to do. The second thing is there's a lot of players in the ecosystem. What I notice is I've been doing this for 2 years. There's still a lack of partners to partners. It's not very consistent, or it's not visible for the entrepreneur. There's so many programs sometimes that entrepreneurs do not get to see which one is appropriate for them.
Right.
And for other entrepreneurs, there's simply nothing. So we have to map all the programs, see where there's gap. When there is redundancy, perhaps merge.
Yeah.
And finally, the last thing we are thinking about is how do we make the transition in the entrepreneurship journey? So you're a micro entrepreneur, you might want a loan through a fintech. Do you really have to repeat your whole story, reprove yourself when you move from that fintech to a partner, to a bank, to BDC, to? That is very painful. And we're looking at, if BDC is a hub, how do we simplify the entrepreneur going from one partner to the next without repeating and reproving its story?
Wow, I think this is a very smart way because at the end of the day, BDC is thinking about the people, right? And the people first approach is a beautiful concept. And thank you for being, so thoughtful about the processes when you think about it. I'm loving this conversation today, and looking ahead, I'd now like to talk about what the future entails for BDC. So let's do a little time travel, Adil. Let me give you a time machine and imagine we were to go 5 or 10 years into the future. When you get out of the time machine, how exactly do you envision BDC helping more and more founders and inclusive as well, changing not just Canada, but eventually the entire globe?
5, 10 years in this era of technology,
Yeah.
the world might be very, very different. However, if I project myself, I think success would mean that we move the needle on women entrepreneurs in Canada as a percent of the population of entrepreneur.
Right.
I think that using things like I just said around fintech to simplify the access of capital for the low complexity loans at the very minimum, where in a click, in 24 hours, you get access to your loan and you can just upload a few documents and it's done. No need to, explain a story, build this, build that. It's connected and it's automatic and it's immediate, at least for the small segment. For the bigger segment, I think that BDC, if we really play our role as a hub and spoke that we aspire to do more and more, then maybe we use partner very specifically in the teams that we need today. I'll give you an example. BDC today does not really offer all the products. So we need the banking system to work alongside us to provide the right programs for the entrepreneurs. We don't offer bank account, credit cards, and things like that. However, what can we do? We can guarantee a loan so that we make the bank comfortable in giving the loan, for example, things like that. So partners is important. No one can do it alone. And there's no other development bank in Canada. So I think BDC's role will be that orchestrator that ignites SMEs, women SMEs, to be successful using partners.
Wow, you've painted quite a picture there. And I think this is not even a thing of future. BDC is already doing amazing things to, get more and more women entrepreneurs, and not just women entrepreneurs, all the founders, despite their racial backgrounds or, where they come from. So as I said, I'm loving this conversation today, Adil, and definitely I'd love for you to be back, hopefully for a deeper discussion that we do the next time. But for today, before we let you go, if there's one final piece of advice that you have for our listeners today, specifically the women who don't know where to take that first leap of hope or faith from, if you could whisper one thing into their ears, what would you say and why?
So launch businesses. Don't be afraid of it. There's a lot of programs that can support you in doing it. Again, pre-loan, loan, and post-loans. You have to be curious. Use AI if you need to understand all the programs that exist. Don't be shy. And honestly, we need more women entrepreneurs for Canada's success, for community success. And don't be afraid in going and launching a business in those new topics. Defense, AI. If you want to sell your business or buy a business, it doesn't have to be tech. It can be old school business, quote unquote. We need those. And we need as well some businesses in the manual sphere of the manufacturing and whatnot. So all those are good and it will be successful in the future.
Beautiful. That is a great reminder that the right relationship is often the strongest bridge to success. Adil, it was such a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for being here and doing this.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, that was Adil Hassam from BDC, a masterclass in community banking, closing the equity gap, and the power of partner-led growth in 2026. To all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the She and Success podcast, powered by She and Success Business Magazine. Be sure to subscribe for more expert insights and visit sheandsuccess.ca for more such resources. A very special thank you to our exclusive shipping partner, Purolator, for their ongoing commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs and helping them build, grow, and lead successful businesses across Canada. I'll see you all in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.